Hello everyone. So today I want to do this video to clarify my take on spirituality. Now granted, this is going to be a very generalized version, but sometimes when I get explaining a direct concept, I can get so complex with my languaging, and then the more we add on words, the more everyone has to decipher meanings, and then a lot of things can be misunderstood. So if I were to sum up my spirituality, I would say it's the spirituality of selflessness. I've explored all kinds of the world's traditions deeply. I've studied these for about 20 years in depth, and some I spent a long time with. Many practices I dove to the core. And what I see is there's definitely a common thread amongst a lot of the faiths. There's also a common thread throughout history, and every time this comes up culturally, of spirituality that is in opposition to religion. This happens often. And a lot of times it leaves with this challenge, this struggle, right? Because you have these open spiritualists, which are so adverse most of the time to religion that any in-depth exploration of the topic gets almost offensive. Anytime they feel a bit of conversion pull, they resist it completely. This is one way that I've done things differently in my exploration in those areas. I've allowed myself to be converted. Anything that I've felt exploring, go into deeply. And then I found so much merit in so many things, right? But if I'm to sum it up, like I said, my spirituality would be selflessness. Now, selfishness would just be the other side. So, again, let's break down the normal borders of religious and spiritual. Let's break down those even. Because, I'll be honest, there's rigidness in both. There's ostracization in both. So for the spiritualists to say that they're more superior than religion because they're looser, no, you just have less structure. That's all. You have the same hypocrisy. You just have less practices to discipline yourself. Unless you jump on the bandwagon of strict self-discipline, meaning a daily practice, which I've gotten a lot of flack for talking about that. But the daily practice is what brings you deeper. Daily meditation, daily prayer, daily breath work, daily yoga, qigong, movement of the body, something like that. That way we get this nervous system moving, and we get all of the chemicals that didn't get full expression. We get those pushed out of the crooks and crannies of our body in order to further set up our system best to receive this thing that is the source energy. So then we can feel power to do our selfless duty. So, I've received a lot of persecution. I've received a lot of resistance, lost friends, lost contacts. And this is nothing new for me. I've been in the spiritual journey for a long time. But especially so when I started identifying with the Christian story. Christian mysticism, to be specific, is what I talk about. I teach how to read spiritual text as poetry and how to take the maieutic understanding of the Bible, meaning your deep interpretation. How is it going to affect your life, these scriptures, right? When you read it, you read it from a perspective of how is this me? And you break cultural conceptions because it's about you. It's not about the culture and what they've said. So you break cultural conceptions and you realize that sin isn't, oh, I need to feel bad necessarily. Sin means misunderstanding, right? And feeling bad for that misunderstanding would fall under the line of repentance, which would then allow you to change the behavior, because that's where repentance comes in, is it means you want to change the behavior. So not only did you misunderstand, you saw your misunderstanding, now you want to change the behavior. Now when we think of it like this is just being a decent human being, a selfless human being. It's not even a matter of necessarily good or bad. It's just a matter of misunderstanding and whether or not you're willing to work on understanding that deeper. That is just at the core of what I would say conflict resolution, right? Is instead of fighting about it, trying to explore and understand deeply and putting ourselves on hold. That way we can unbiasedly look into a situation, right? These things are important. These things are a great example of a selfless faith. And we have to have a pattern, an archetype, if you will, to hold our mental construct. That way it doesn't get tossed this way and that, right? And the best one I have found for me would be Jesus Christ. Now, the reason is because Jesus Christ is the best example that I can understand across multiple cultures and multiple theologies, mind you, of selfless living, selfless service. Almost superhuman, right? Sounds like the archetype I want to live up to. Now, it does mean that there's a whole lot, but I'm not here to do just anything. Some people are, and that's fine. That's okay. If your experience feels great living in selfishness, whether you call it spiritual, whether you don't call it anything, you just call it mundane existence, you just call it life, right? If you're not giving your all every day to be selfless in your actions, that's fine. That's one way of living your life. That's not the way I choose. And when I talk about spirituality, that's definitely not how I would define spirituality. That's definitely not how I would define what getting closer to God is. Getting closer to God is not a 5-star retreat that makes you feel comfy. No, that's not getting closer to God. Going out there and doing selfless work, that is getting closer to God. However you define God, I don't mind. I really don't. But for me, I'm going to choose to be selfless, meaning I've removed myself. I'm a Kriya Yogi and I'm Christian mystic. And anybody that truly wants to understand Christianity, truly, if you want to truly understand what Jesus was teaching, that's what I'm here to teach. And I've dedicated my life and modeled my archetype to the T, and it continues to grow because I am not perfect. That is why I have an archetype that I am growing towards, right? And that archetype is selflessness. Selflessness. That's the archetype. That's the way to go. Thank you.